The policy. The elderly gentleman took his walk at the same time every morning. Tall, erect, and decidedly dapper, he cut an odd, anachronistic figure as he strode through the nearly deserted park, swinging his cane and whistling good-naturedly. On this particular morning, however, he gradually became aware that he was being followed. He ventured a quick glance over his shoulder and spotted a slim, dark young man some distance behind him. He was well aware of the city's crime rate and quickened his pace. The young man quickened his in response. Alarmed, he increased his speed even more. The other immediately followed suit. Finally, the old man broke into a dead run, and looking back, found that he was indeed being chased. Realizing he would very quickly be overtaken, he whirled to confront his pursuer, at the same time raising his cane to defend himself. "What do you want?" he demanded in a shaky, frightened voice. "I have no money if that's what you're after." "You're one of them, aren't you?" "One of whom? What are you talking about?" "Please don't try to deny it. You showed up right after your colleague disappeared. I know who and what you are. I know all about First Contact and your plans for this planet. I know about the policy." "The policy? You must be either mad or drunk. Leave me alone, or I'll call the police." Suddenly a burst of melodic, bird-like chatter tumbled from the young man's mouth. "You need not maintain this pretense. I am neither mad nor drunk. Surely Siwit mentioned me in his reports." They stared at each other for a long moment. Then the alien slowly lowered his cane and drew back slightly, unnerved to hear his language spoken so expertly. "No," he answered in the same tongue, "he did not. An inexcusable oversight. Please continue." The young man looked around furtively. "We can't talk here. Follow me." He led him to a secluded bench, sheltered by a dense thicket of trees, and the two sat down. "We won't be disturbed here," he assured him. "Siwit and I used to meet in this spot often." The alien sat stiffly upright on the bench, hands clasped over the top of his cane, and examined the young man with curiosity. "I await an explanation," he finally said. "Exactly who are you, and how did you come to know Siwit?" The young man quickly noted that this alien, unlike Siwit, seemed misplaced in time. He possessed the quaint old-world formality not only in his appearance and manner, but also in his speech patterns. He slowly gathered his thoughts, took a deep breath, and began. "My name is Simon Weiss. I am a professor of linguistics at the local university. I met Siwit at a faculty party. As you know, his cover identity was that of an associate professor of physics, which was roughly equivalent to Einstein teaching a class of slightly backward preschoolers. It must have been a terrible strain on his patience, but he never once betrayed even the slightest frustration." The alien was silent for a moment, absorbing this revelation. "Fascinating," he finally offered, "but I must confess to being a bit bewildered. What could have possibly possessed Siwit, a well-trained agent, to share such critical, highly classified information with you?" Seemingly somewhat surprised and embarrassed by the question, Simon attempted to explain. "Well," he replied, "I know it will sound strange, even absurd, to say we were kindred spirits, but it's true. Despite the immense gulf that separated us, we developed a genuine friendship. And this friendship was, I'm sure, the reason he trusted me enough to reveal the policy. That, and perhaps in his own way, he was lonely and needed to confide in someone. I flatter myself that his choice was a sound one." The alien smiled. "I think I understand," he said. "Our assignments are solitary and can become extremely stressful." He paused as if considering his next words carefully. "But you must forgive me for insisting on details. What precisely did Siwit tell you about our species and the policy?" Simon answered without hesitation. He explained the plight of your people and their desperate requirement for certain materials and resources of which we have a ridiculous abundance. He told me about the plans for first contact and how your leaders had decided on a course of peaceful interaction and negotiation with us, rather than merely taking what they needed. In exchange for our cooperation, they were prepared to provide us with an astonishing array of scientific and technological knowledge, thousands of years ahead of our own. And, unsurprisingly, the alien said, you found the prospect of Earth's obtaining such advanced knowledge to be a powerful enticement. It wasn't just that, Simon told him. I immediately realized the transformative effect first contact would have on our civilization, on the way we humans see each other and our place in the cosmos. I was thrilled by the possibility of being even a small part of a great evolutionary leap for mankind. It was very clear to me that the policy would mean not only technological advancement, but a new ethical paradigm. For the first time in history, the world would be unified. Our very nature would be changed. The policy would usher in a new age, making humanity's most daring dreams a reality. As he spoke, both his enthusiasm and his volume rose. The alien grew concerned and looked around apprehensively. Contain yourself, young man. Please lower your voice. I apologize, Simon quickly replied. It's just that whenever I think about first contact, which I know now is close, I become very excited. But you needn't worry. We are perfectly secure here. The alien seemed comforted by this assurance. I admire your motives, Simon. In fact, I applaud them. I celebrate them. Clearly, your intentions are entirely altruistic and beyond reproach. He smiled faintly, almost mischievously, before continuing. But is it at all possible that you harbor some ulterior motive? One that perhaps contains just a tiny bit of self-interest? Simon flushed slightly and then chuckled. I confess, he grinned, throwing up his hands, guilty as charged. As a linguist, I do have enough professional ambition to be tempted by the opportunity to be the first to write an alien grammar. Seward promised me that when relations between our two peoples were formalized, he would arrange for me to be among the first group of humans to visit your world, a sort of cultural exchange. The alien nodded. That is a very modest and unimpeachable personal ambition, Simon, a noble one even. But has it occurred to you that not all your fellow humans will be as open-minded, imaginative, and far-sighted as you? Millions of them will be terrified and confused by first contact. Many might even consider you to be a collaborator, a traitor to your own species. How would you answer those people? The young man grew thoughtful. I know there will be accusations, he said. They're inevitable. I expect them. But the policy itself will be my defense. I'm sure that eventually my attackers will understand that whatever I have done for the betterment of my species. Suddenly the alien became intensely serious. I have another question, Simon. A critically important question. Think very carefully before you answer. The alien made and held unwavering eye contact with him. Did Seward share this intelligence with anyone other than you? Certainly not, Simon responded with some indignation. Seward believed deeply in his mission and would never have jeopardized it. He paused meaningfully. And neither would I, he added emphatically. That was your next question, wasn't it? The alien held his gaze for an uncomfortably long time. Then he laughed. It was an odd laugh, unnatural and disturbing. Seward had also found it difficult to reproduce that very human sound. Simon speculated that it could have something to do with the structure of the alien vocal cords. Forgive me, Simon. I did not intend to offend you. I just had to be absolutely certain of your discretion. No offense taken, Simon replied, relaxing. First contact will be the most consequential event in human history. It will also be an extraordinarily delicate and complicated diplomatic process, as fragile as the proverbial butterfly wings. I would not do or say anything that might threaten negotiations. I swear to you that I have not breathed a word to anyone." The alien patted his knee reassuringly. "I believe you, Simon. I truly do. And I appreciate your enthusiasm and sincerity. Rest assured you will be appropriately rewarded. Indeed, I can think of no better candidate for our first cultural exchange. In particular, I must compliment you on your mastery of our tongue. That is a most impressive accomplishment. It must have been extremely difficult." Sigurd was an excellent teacher. I have no doubt he was. From him I learned your language, and through that language I have seen and been seduced by the chilling beauty of your planet. Sigurd described our planet. Simon smiled broadly. He certainly did. That's why I'm so determined to see it for myself. I've actually grown nostalgic for a world I've never known. Sometimes, lying alone in the dark, I can evoke every haunting aspect of it. The entire physical and cultural landscape emerges with startling clarity. The plains of Hivel and the mountains of Lorwith. And above those great mountains, I can imagine the laser paintings of Talaiazine. I see them filling the night sky like the divine lightning of some deity at play, form and color blossoming from the mind of God. As Simon spoke, the alien appeared captivated by his words and inched closer to him on the bench. And beyond that horizon, Simon went on, lie the breathtaking towers of the capital city Blegarid. But above all, embracing all, is the glorious music of the magnificent Gentai, his mind reaching upwards to the very source of creation. Simon closed his eyes and continued rapturously, as if in a trance. And here, on this planet, I envision a world without starvation or war, a new civilization bursting forth from a chrysalis of fear and ignorance, one devoted to the sublime and to the passion of the intellect. And the union of our two races will be the catalyst that sparks this metamorphosis, each species so different, yet each providing the other with the means to fulfill its destiny. Simon fell silent, his eyes still closed, his face serene. He continued to bask in the ecstatic vision he had conjured up. The alien regarded him impassively. Then he slowly peeled away the bioplasticine flesh covering his hands. 14 long, cable-like talons reached out, and with a smooth, almost casual gesture, snapped the young man's neck. The lifeless body dropped heavily to the ground. The alien watched the final spasms of the corpse with clinical interest. Then he readjusted his artificial flesh and retrieved his cane. After a final check to confirm that he had not been observed, he exited the thicket and nonchalantly resumed his walk. He was not concerned about the carcass. By the time it was discovered, he would be far from the scene, and the killing itself would become just another random, unsolved crime in an already crime-ridden city. Actually, it was indeed fortunate that this opportunity had presented itself. Such an informed and unusual member of the species could have proven troublesome. The Grand Council would certainly hear of the outrageous breach of security on the part of his liberal, muddle-headed predecessor. Sigurd would pay the ultimate price for his treachery. Many would pay the ultimate price. The mere thought of civilizing and uplifting these primitive creatures, this vermin, was sheer nonsense. Their very presence repulsed him. He was gratified that the new regime shared his sentiments. Total and unsparing pacification was the only logical course of action. Failing that, extermination would be in order. Actually, that was the policy his party had proposed when they were in political opposition. His step became sprightlier. Swinging his cane, he began whistling one of the famous melodies of Gentai. Nevertheless, he mused, the animal had displayed remarkable powers of mimicry, as well as a rudimentary form of reasoning. He might even submit a monograph on the subject, citing this incident in detail. As he strolled, the alien spotted a sudden flash of red in the branches above him. He paused to watch a colorful cardinal flit gracefully from tree to tree. Lovely. Once his assignment was completed, he would have ample time to acquaint himself with the more intriguing and charming forms of life on this planet. That was my story, The Policy. I hope you enjoyed it, or at least found it interesting. I'm James Thurber. Once again, thank you for listening.